Talk about the NGOs that are involved in all of this.
The NGOs need to be investigated. They will be investigated. I know that the NGOs have been given billions of dollars to assist in this mass migration. Now, they say they're performing a service that's unnecessary, because while they're putting people in a hotel room in New York City for $500 a night, there are thousands of empty ice beds at $127 a night. And those ice beds come with doctors, nurses, pharmacists, 3 squares a day, and we're going to put them in a hotel at $500 a night. The reason this administration is doing that is for one reason, because if you're in an ICE detention facility, immigration court prioritizes those in detention. They'll get a hearing in 30 to 40 days, which means they'll be removed in 30 to 40 days because most of them don't qualify. However, if you're released, you're on what we call the non-detained docket. Immigration court doesn't prioritize that. So now you're waiting 3, 5, 7 years. And in that 3, 5, 7 years, you probably got 1 or 2 USC kids. You probably have some other equities. So when it does get time to remove you, when I was ICE director, I got called from Republican senators. Why'd you remove that guy? He has 2 U.S. citizen kids. Well, he didn't have 2 U.S. citizen kids when he entered illegally. So he chose to have 2 U.S. citizen kids, knowing he's in the country illegally. Now he's got order removal. So that means he gets amnesty? That means he's immune from the court order? Because if that's a fact, then shut down the immigration court. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Shut down, take the border off the border, with no consequences. No. If you choose to have an American child while you're in this country illegally, shame on you. You put yourself in that position. And I removed him, despite some yelling, even from Republican senators. The law is the law, and we're not going to bend it.
So how long are we keeping these people if they go into some of these hotels for $500 a night? I've stayed at the Motel 6 before, which it wasn't $6, even though they called it the Motel 6, but it was pretty cheap when I was in college. But $500 a night is considered a pretty luxury hotel, right? Even in New York.
I have never stayed in a hotel room at $500 a night. You gave me a pretty nice hotel room here, and I think it's around $300. But I've never stayed in a $500 hotel, nor would I. I'm a Hampton Inn type guy. Give me a Hampton Inn. You know, the guy comes to, as long as he's got a clean bed and a clean shower, I'm good.
Yeah. You go down and fix your own breakfast, and
you know what? When I was the ICE director, I was actually the secretary. Secretary Kelly called me up one day and said, "Congratulations, you're the cheapest fed in the United States government." He goes, "We pulled your travel. You always stay at Hampton Inns. You always take coach, and you turn down free upgrades on airplanes. Why would you turn down a free first class ticket and upgrade?" I says, "Because the taxpayers don't know it's a free upgrade. They see me sitting in that first class seat. They're thinking, okay, Homan's flying around our tax dollar in first class." So I turned down every upgrade, and I never took a detail with me. Every security guy, every ICE director would take 5 or 6 people in the security detail and his chief of staff. I figure wherever I'm going, there's an ICE office there. I got plenty of armed officers there. They'll take care of me there. And if I need chief of staff, I'll grab some from that office. So I called the cheapest fed in Washington, D.C. because I'm not saying I'm cheap, but I'm not going to spend the taxpayers' money like it's my money. It's not.
Yeah, I get it. But now, how long are we keeping these people in these hotels? What's the average length of stay?
So someone's been there for years. I mean, I don't know. The NGOs are getting, as long as we keep funding these NGOs, they're going to keep paying for it. But I was in New York City. What really got me upset, I was in New York City a few weeks ago, right to Columbus Day. The day before Columbus Day, I arrived in New York City to do some shows, and I'm trying to get to the Fox studio from my hotel, and I got across, I forget what street it was, and there was a parade going on the day before Columbus Day. And it was migrant groups. I saw Honduran flag came down, and they were singing songs and marching. Then El Salvadorian flag comes down, the Mexican flag comes down. And I'm sitting there because you can't cross the street. The NYPD would stop the parade once in a while and open up a path to cross. And out of all these, everything I saw there, I never saw American flag. I stood there for 40 minutes, never saw American flag. But I saw all these other foreign national flags. That's fine. But I've never seen people who claim persecution carrying the flag of the persecutors. It kind of amazed me. And the next day we had a Columbus parade, but what I saw in New York City was all these people are being staying in hotels. I walked by the Roosevelt Hotel, which used to be a beautiful hotel. I guarantee it's not anymore. And there's been whistleblowers out of the hotel saying there's been defecation on the floors, there's been food thrown, there's been sexual assaults, and it's just amazing. And I think just recently the mayor in New York City Eric Adams has reached out to me, and I'm planning on meeting with him. I think he wants some help, and I'm willing to give him help to make that city safe again.
Well, that's $15,000 a month to put somebody in a hotel, and they could be in an ice bed for 120.
The average ice bed is 120. It's 127 when I left, and like I say, in an ice bed you get all these other things. You get food. There's a doctor in these facilities, medical care, attorney-client privilege rooms, VTC. You can talk to the VTCs. They talk to you. I mean, these facilities. I think most American taxpayers would be pretty upset at what ICE spends in these facilities on their detention standards. You have the highest detention standards in the industry.
And there are empty ice beds.
Thousands of them.
Thousands.
Already paid for. The reason they're not putting them in ice beds is because they know they'll get a quick hearing. If they release them, chances are they're never going home because they're hoping in 5 or 6 years, there's a Democratic administration, they'll come up with an amnesty program, and congratulations, you all get to stay.
Yeah, people need to hear this conversation. I mean, this is just it's not a lot of details. It's just bottom line, what's happening. People need to understand there are thousands of ice beds available, and they're passing them up and putting people in something that costs 3-4 times more for much longer.
This is by design. They purposely overwhelmed the system. Where now some hearings are out 5-7 years for New York City. They push it out because in that 5 to 7 years, you can have U.S. citizen kids. You can build equities. And they're hoping that an administration will come along, maybe a Democratic administration that's going to come up with an amnesty program. They're pushing the thing out. They overwhelm the system on purpose. I mean, ICE criminal docket's over 1 million people. And I think the overall docket's over 4 million already on the docket. And immigration judges are already overwhelmed. Well, their work just got 100 times worse. There are actually hearings that won't happen for 7 years. And that they did this on purpose.
If people know, and they do, that we're 5, 6, 7 weeks away from President Trump being sworn in, you taking over the reins, is there a rush to get here? Do we have an influx of people headed this way to try to get here before that happens?
Yes, the cartels are selling that right now. Get in the country before Trump gets in. But what they're being smarter about, rather than these big caravans, they're breaking them up in smaller groups, so they're not so noticeable. The president of Mexico says she's going to break up the caravans. I'll believe when I see it. What they're doing is breaking them up in smaller pieces and sneaking across the border.
And they're still coming, though.
Oh, they're still coming.
So
there are thousands and thousands in towns across Mexico waiting to make that journey. They're going to come. And look, they're going to come when President Trump's president, but the difference is there's not going to be catch and release.
Is this something that you can do in 4 years? Is it something you can do in a year?
No, this is a decades problem. But we're going to do a lot of it. Look, we'll secure the border, no doubt. But to remove all the illegals in this country, no, it's a decade problem. And they created that on purpose, like I just said.
Yeah.
And when the decade comes, we'll probably have a Democratic administration at some time. I hope not, but if they do, they'll come up with some amnesty program. That's why we need to be vigilant. That's why this operation is so important. We need to do as much as we can as quick as we can to take control, because this, again, by design, they meant this to happen, and it's going to be hard to fix it. It's a decade fix. But the border, a few months, we'll have that locked down. We know what to do. President Trump's a strong president. He would demand action from the Central American countries and demand action from Mexico, and it's going to have he's already doing it with Canada and Mexico, and I'm sure he's having conversations. The president of Panama just reached out to me. He wants to meet with the president. He's serious about shutting down the Panama Gap, and he will do it. But like he said, well, the Biden administration said they're going to do it, but they never gave him the money to do it. So we'll hook him up with President Trump, and we'll finally shut down the Darien Gap and let them shut it down with our assistance. But he's serious about it. You got the president of El Salvador, who's locking up hundreds of thousands of gang members in this country. He'll help us. And he's taking a strong stance. He wants to work with the president. So a lot of leaders around the world are seeing the light, and they want to work with President Trump.
A lot of people on the left are saying you are a cold-blooded, uncaring hard ass.
I don't care.
And you're saying just the opposite, that they're encouraging people to put themselves in harm's way, to subject themselves to abuse, torture, rape, and death And it's them that are uncaring and allowing these people to be tortured and put in harm's way. You're flipping the script on them from what I hear you saying.
Absolutely. And I got data to back it up. You compare the sex trafficking under Trump compared to Biden, up 600%. Compare the overdose deaths of fentanyl comes across an open border. Compare Biden to Trump. If you want to look at the no inspected terrorists. Under Trump, 13, 14, 4 years, they got over 300. They had more people on the terrorist watch list arrested last month than Trump had in 4 years. So the data proves it. The number of migrants dying, we're hitting the 4,000 mark under President Biden. Historic number of migrants have died across that border. So, they can look at the data themselves and see the difference between the two administrations. President Trump's policy saved lives by the thousands. Biden's killing Americans at record numbers with fentanyl overdoses, and they're killing migrants at record numbers. The facts speak for themselves.